Every day on this channel, I go through everything Elon said on X in the last 24 hours. And here's how many times Elon posted about each subject today. I'll go over everything he said about each topic before moving on to the next one. And starting with SpaceX, Elon reports that Falcon rocket has landed for the 500th time. The Falcon 9 completes its 500th landing after lifting off from Pad 40 in Florida. And there is another angle of liftoff that Elon reposted. And there is Falcon 9 launching 28 Starlink satellites from Florida. Kiko works at SpaceX. He says that Falcon launched number 130 for 2025. The rolling 365 launch total is 166 launches. And some notable records from this morning. The fastest launch to launch from the same American launch pad at 55 hours, 29 minutes, and 9 seconds. And the fastest transporter erector roll into hangar for booster integration to launch at 12 hours, 5 minutes, and 20 seconds. I'm confident the SpaceX Falcon team will pull off a sub 48-hour launch-to-launch turn from Pad 40 this year. We still have some work to do to best the world record from the Soviets in 1962 with Vostok 3 and Vostok 4 from the same pad in 24 hours, which was two different ground launch systems, so not totally apples to apples, but nonetheless it's the record. Of course, we will all look back and laugh at these records once Starship is ripping multiple launches a day from the same pad. And Elon reposted this. And he also reposted this photo of a Starship stacked right beside an A380 with a 737-8 on top of the A380. And the Starship with the super heavy booster is still taller, 123 meters versus 113 meters. And Elon reposted this one. And Lockheed Martin Space says thanks for the lift at SpaceX, so I assume SpaceX is carrying some payload for Lockheed Martin. And Elon replies with an American flag. And SpaceX posted some more footage of the final descent and splashdown of Starship on Flight 11, captured by the SpaceX recovery team in the Indian Ocean. And so Shayna said, I can't resist reposting these videos. Recovery team delivering epic shots as always. They really give us some good imagery of the heat shield post-entry and enables visualization of what ship catch will look like. Super appreciate this team and what they do every launch. And Elon reposted this. And NBC's Tom Costello actually went live. He did a live stream at 30,000 feet in the air using Starlink. And Elon quoted this saying, to satellites traveling at 17,000 miles per hour, other moving objects seem stationary. And United Airlines has posted an ad advertising their Starlink capability on their flights, but they say that it's just for members plus members, or mileage plus members, but it says down here that membership to mileage plus is free and available at united.com/Starlink. So Elon says Starlink's starting to go live on United. And moving on from SpaceX, Tesla Optimus just dropped a little Halloween costume if you want to dress up like Tesla Optimus. And Elon reposted this one. And maybe you guys caught the Tornetta appeal. It was the court case involving Elon's compensation package, and I posted the live court oral arguments on my channel just the other day. Tesla Boomer Mama says, can we please have a moment thanking Amy, who was today in the courtroom in Delaware with her lawyers and without whom we could not have done all the mobilization by Tesla retail shareholders. Thank you, Amy. You are a superstar. And Elon responded with a heart. And moving on to X, Peter Dwan says, Nikita Bier, who is the head of product at X, please fix the monetization. I have consistently compared my payouts with my peers and have been consistently underpaid. I'm happy to provide data. Thank you. And Nikita says at this point, I think creator payouts does more harm than good, and we need to off-ramp to a different system. The reason he's saying this is because a lot of people on X have voiced their opinions saying that the fact that there is creator payouts is creating a lot of grifters and people who are being annoying with their content because they just want to make money. But Elon responds to this and he says, no, the issue is that we are underpaying and not allocating payment accurately enough. YouTube does a much better job. So it's interesting to see Elon disagree with the head of product at X here. And speaking of disagreements, we got some news from Trump today on the Russia-Ukraine conflict. He says, I have just concluded my telephone conversation with President Vladimir Putin of Russia, and it was a very productive one. President Putin congratulated me and the United States on the great accomplishment of peace in the Middle East, something that he said has been dreamed of for centuries. I actually believe that the success in the Middle East will help in our negotiation in attaining an end to the war with Russia and Ukraine. President Putin thanked the First Lady Melania for her involvement with children. He was very appreciative and said that this will continue. We also spent a great deal of time talking about trade between Russia and the United States when the war with Ukraine is over. At the conclusion of the call, we agreed that there will be a meeting of our high-level advisors next week. The United States' initial meetings will be led by Secretary of State Marco Rubio, together with various other people to be designated. A meeting location is to be determined. President Putin and I will then meet in an agreed-upon location, Budapest, to see if we can bring this inglorious war between Russia and Ukraine to an end. President Zelensky and I will be meeting tomorrow in the Oval Office, where we will discuss my conversation with President Putin and much more. I believe great progress was made with today's telephone conversation. And Elon replied to this saying, encouraging. And odds of the Democrats winning the House in 2026 have plummeted by 20%. The odds are now 63% in favor of the Democrats. Riley says, so long as they continue to endorse violence and mutilate children and celebrate crime, and not know what a woman is and put Americans last, the Democratic Party will continue to fall. And Elon replied, absolutely. Kremlin writes, it's happening. The Republicans are about to gain a dozen safe House seats. The Supreme Court seems likely to limit race-based electoral districts under Voting Rights Act. Manko Smash says the presidency and House are shifting hard to the right. All that leaves is the Senate, saying you are here in 2025, the beginning of 12 years of Republican reign. And Elon reposted that one. And Donald Trump gave a huge thank you to all the No Kings protesters yesterday. He said, I was very concerned a king was trying to take my place, but thanks to your tireless efforts, I am still your president. Great job to all. And Space Wench posted that same 12-year Republican dynasty, and Elon had a laugh at that one. And today Trump announced that he will be surging federal agents into San Francisco to clean up the crime. Elon said, awesome. And U_chill draws attention to Oakland. He said, I want to take you through a wasteland that I like to call my home. Daniel says Oakland is a ruin at this point. The Warriors left, the Raiders left, the Athletics left. Nobody bothers to report property crimes anymore. Common areas are barren and unusable. The local ruling class of homeless cannot be bargained with. This was once a great city. And Elon reposted this. And while we're in California, Secretary Sean Duffy is withholding $40 million in funding for California because they can't get their priorities straight. The Golden State thinks it's okay to ignore the U.S. Department of Transportation English language requirements for truckers. You can play all the games you want, but not at the expense of American lives. Elon said the wife of a friend of mine was killed by an illegal trucker who wasn't qualified to drive. Safety standards exist for a reason. And let's go back to Mark Benioff's Prop C victory that was now 7 years ago that helped the homeless in San Francisco. He said Prop C's victory means the homeless will have a home and the help they truly need. Let the city come together in love for those who need it most. There's no finish line when it comes to helping the homeless. Thank you, amazing supporters of Prop C. So Mike Solana said it has been 7 years since Mark Benioff's catastrophic Prop C, which he said would end homelessness. Since passing, major tech companies have been driven from San Francisco. The city's budget for the crisis has nearly tripled and homelessness has increased. Elon said, yep. And Louis Brackpool says that this is the most absurd freedom of information response I've had to date. The Home Office has refused to release records about which NGOs and charities are influencing asylum accommodation policy, because my social media activity supposedly poses a safety risk and could trigger public backlash. A government department just used my identity as a journalist to justify blocking a lawful transparency request. They wrote, recent social media activity by the requester included sharing personal details and misleading narratives, which has already caused safety concerns among stakeholders. The Freedom of Information Act is applicant blind. It exists precisely so authorities can't pick and choose who gets the truth. Instead, they are shielding well-connected NGOs and contractors from scrutiny, the same organizations shaping policy on illegal migration and housing at taxpayers' expense. I filed an internal review demanding that this decision be overturned, and a refined follow-up Freedom of Information request forcing the Home Office to disclose at the very least the agendas and topics of these secretive meetings. And Elon said, wow. And William shared this chart, and what this chart is supposed to represent is sort of the left line of thinking. He says that one lie demands ever more lies to survive. The left doubles down on blank slate lies because the alternative is to reconsider the legitimacy of their existence. And so Dystopian Girlfriend quotes this and says, "This is why the left can't meme. You can't compress the ever-branching tree of lies into something people instinctively understand and resonate with like an image. Instead, you have to use language, either trained mantras or paragraphs, to trigger sequential cognitive routines that run through the entire tree. The left is thus restricted to the textual domain. Their ideas cannot effectively enter the image plane." And Elon reposted that one. And Politico wrote a hit piece on a young Republican. And Matt Walsh says if you actually read that Politico hit piece, you'll see that many of the messages are being taken wildly out of context. For example, the guy who said "I love Hitler" was clearly being sarcastic. So here's the article being referenced. The headline reads, "The young Republicans' leaked chat is a sign of where we could be headed." The opening paragraph reads, "On Tuesday, Politico published a series of racist and anti-Semitic messages from a group chat filled with young Republicans leaders. They included references to putting their opponents in gas chambers and raping them. They called black people monkeys and the watermelon people. One message stated simply, 'I love Hitler.'" So Matt said the guy who said "I love Hitler" was clearly being sarcastic. It's explicitly meant to be a sarcastic joke. And yet Politico put that quote in the headline of the article, and conservatives are lining up to offer denunciations. How in the hell is anyone on the right still falling for this trick? How have you not learned by now to take absolutely nothing from the leftist media at face value, especially if it's a blatant political hit piece? He goes on and he says, the guy was saying, "Yeah, I'm so right-wing, I guess I love Hitler." Basic sarcasm of a kind deployed by right-wingers all the time. "I have theocratic fascist in my bio." It's clearly a sarcastic joke. Again, Politico made this the headline of the piece. It's fundamentally dishonest and nobody on the right should be giving it any credibility. Elon said Politico is pure propaganda. And Dungeons and Dragons posted that in this realm, it is your story to tell. And so Daniel quoted this photo saying, "What the f*** is going on with D&D? And Elon said, "Seriously." And I assume what they are referring to is these two men dancing in the center, one of them dipping the other. And then you have two grandmas over here who are looking like they are into each other. Grum said that D&D is long gone, and Elon said long gone, unfortunately. And news today that the U.S. Department of State is revoking the visas of people who celebrated the attack on Charlie Kirk. Tax-funded state media propagandist Mario Sixtus is banned from the U.S. And the Post goes on to propose another candidate for being banned, Elmar, the #1 Germany state TV source of information about America. They defamed Charlie Kirk with blatant lies. He is based in D.C. and he slandered Trump on many occasions and compared him to Hitler. And Elon reposted this. And J.D. Vance shares his thoughts on Europe.
And I'm not, yes, the Europeans annoy me sometimes, and yes, I disagree with them on certain issues, but we have to remember that is the cradle of Western civilization. The entire idea of Christian civilization that led to the founding of the United States of America, that was formed in Europe. The cultural bonds, the religious bonds, these things are going to last beyond political disagreements, but I think that Europe, and frankly, I would have said this about America a year ago, but Europe is at risk, I think, of engaging in civilizational suicide. They are unable to, or unwilling, too many countries to control their borders. You see them starting to push back against that, and good, that's a good thing. You see them starting to limit the free speech of their own citizens, even as those citizens are protesting against things like the border invasion that got Donald Trump and a number of European leaders elected. So look, I want Europe to thrive. I want them to be an important ally. Part of that is going to be Europe respecting its own people, respecting its own sovereignty, and America can't do that job for them. If you have a country like Germany, where you have another few million immigrants come in from countries that are totally culturally incompatible with Germany, then it doesn't matter what I think about Europe. Germany will have killed itself, and I hope they don't do that because I love Germany and I want Germany to thrive.
And Elon reposted that one. And Peter Sweden says the Swedish city Malmö is now ranked as dangerous as Baghdad. There has been 161 bombings in Sweden so far in 2025. We have almost 60 no-go zones. And Elon responded with 2 exclamation marks. And over in the UK, Joe Rogan said on his podcast that it's like someone is trying to deliberately destroy England. The mass immigration is not an accident. He said, if I were going to destroy a country, I would do it exactly the way they are doing it. And Elon said 100. Wall Street Mav says the UK government is racist against indigenous English people. And Elon reposted that. And Peter Sweden reports that the British Labour Party plummets to historic lows with only 15% in the latest poll. This is their lowest vote share they've ever gotten since modern polling began. People are rejecting socialism. And Elon said the people of Britain want change. And Great Britain News reports an illegal migrant pedophile who sexually assaulted a child was jailed for 1 year. But 3 local men protesting his actions were jailed for up to 2 years and 4 months. Alex Armstrong says that this exposes the deep rot in our judiciary and a 2-tier justice system. And Elon reposted that. But the US has its own judicial problems. Jacoby Tillman tried violently raping a girl in a park, and he has a long, violent record, and he was freed yet again on a $9,500 bail. And Elon responded with 2 exclamation marks. And here's Trump on Chicago crime.
I used to watch these cities with the murders. Chicago recently had one deal where they had 11 murders in one weekend, and they said, well, yeah, but it was a holiday weekend. They actually told me that was the reason. Like it was okay because it was a holiday. It was Labor Day. These people are the worst.
And Elon reposted that one. And here's the only Grok Imagine post that Elon reposted today. And he also shared this video of the time-traveling dietitian. I can't share it just because of the music, but it's so funny. He basically comes in from the past and he's like, don't eat those eggs, they're full of cholesterol. So then the guy's like, okay. And so then he leaves and he comes back and he's like, wait, because he goes back in time every time he leaves and he comes back again. He's like, no, you can eat the egg whites because there's 2 types of cholesterol and you just can't eat the yolk because that's bad cholesterol. And then he ends up coming back again and he's like, you know what? We don't actually know anything about cholesterol. It turns out that your body, even though you're eating cholesterol, it doesn't necessarily put it all into your blood, so you can eat eggs. It's totally fine. And then he leaves and he's like, no, the steak. You can't eat the steak. The steak is what is bad. And then he leaves and he comes back. He's like, you know what? No, steak is fine. He's like, it's the toast. You can't eat the bread. The bread is what will get you. And then he finally comes back at the end and he's like, no, you know what? None of it matters. It's all genetics. Now, you guys probably hated watching it that way, but I'm sorry. Maybe I'll put the link in the description if you guys really want to watch it. But I always forget to do that. Anyways, Elon had a laugh at that one. And Andrei Karpathy says, TV in the 90s, you just turn it on and you watch. But TV in 2025, you turn it on and you wait for it to load. There's a pop-up because the TV wants to update. It's 1.5 gigabytes, so you say no. You scroll sideways and find Prime Video app or whatever. But there's a pop-up. Now that app wants to update. It's 500 megabytes. No. So the app launches, the app is loading, you select the account screen, and then you vegetate. And Elon has a laugh at that one. So that's everything that Elon said today. There's hope for the Ukraine war as we saw through his reaction to Trump's statement. The Falcon 9 hit 500 landings, which is absolutely insane. And we also saw his little disagreement with the head of product at X. So we'll see if content creators on X start to get paid out more and with some more clarity on how exactly they are getting paid out. And if you guys want early access to these daily videos, you can gain access by joining this channel as a member. And I'll see you guys tomorrow.